And we are live here on Plus One EXP's Roll for Content channel. TPK Roleplay, where is the fancy starting music? I think it was up long enough that the music may have ended, but maybe I just don't have it set up right. I'll figure that out later. Sorry that we were a little bit late. We were discussing people getting arrested with rat tails in their pockets. And you know that sometimes you got to give space for the important things in life. Welcome to Plus One EXP. My name is Tony Vicente. I'm Chief Alchemist here. We're a weird little brand that multi-classes in tabletop game design, beard and skincare alchemy, and the Bardic College of Content Creation. Our hope and desire is to help amazing designers find great players who love their games and help amazing players find great designers whose games they can love. We do that in a lot of different ways, but the most fun way we do it is sitting down with those designers and some of our friends and playing the game. Today is no different. We're doing a mashup today. We are taking the game Necronautilus and we're throwing it into the world of Cyber Metal 2012, which is live right now over on GameFound. There's links in the description to both of those things, but I'll also drop the link in chat in just 1 second. With that said, I'm going to hand you over to Adam Vass, the designer of both of those games, to tell you a little bit about who they are and each of them. Adam, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about Necronautilus, but tell us also a little bit about the world we're going to be playing in for Cyber Metal 2012.
Totally. My name is Adam Vass. I make games as World Cham Game Co, and I use he, they pronouns. Necronautilus is a stoner metal science fantasy role-playing game that we made about a year ago. In it, you play souls bound to sentient clouds of noxious gas, and you traverse the afterlife universe in service of the blind god Death. You carry out Death's will across infinite generative planets, and you discover who you were along the course of playing, and emerging memories that sort of force you to make hard decisions about whether you continue your journey in Death's service or you start to care more about your identity and pursue life. We are today exploring the world of Cyber Metal 2012. As mentioned, that's a game that's funding right now. That's something that I've been working on for about a year. It's the spiritual sibling to Necronautilus. It is similarly gonzo heavy metal weirdness of an alternate history ruled by the demons of hell and click wheel iPods and see-through Game Boys and low technology cyberpunk. That game is currently at pentagram.city, where I'm funding it on GameFound. And what we're playing today is a module for Necronautilus called Pentagram that is specifically the afterlife of the residents of Pentagram City, the setting of Cyber Metal 2012. So we have a sort of, as you mentioned, flavor mashup going on of demons and rat tails and cassette tapes, all on a planet that is crumbling beneath their feet as blood continues to seep into the dirt and destabilize their atmosphere. So we're just going full tilt. We're going to say a bunch of cool sentences made up of cool words and get real weird and metal.
Awesome. I'm super excited for it also too. We're basically both real and real rat tails as well as hair rat tails through the course of this game. Let's meet some of the other folks that we're playing with. Let's go straight up above my head as the viewers are watching to Spencer Campbell. Spencer, tell people who you are, what you do, where they can find you online.
Hi, everybody. I'm Spencer Campbell. I publish RPGs under the name Gila RPGs. Yeah, you can basically find me everywhere online at gilarpgs.com or on Twitter at gilarpgs. I release a bunch of RPGs like the Lumen System, Nova, Slayers. Those are some of my popular ones. Or Corvid Court, the one that will always have the nearest and dearest place in my heart. And I think the only other thing you need to know about me is I've got a great dog named Clover, and I'm probably going to keep looking at her over there. So if you see me looking over there, I'm just admiring how great my dog is.
And I have a bunch of unredeemed Clover Cam things from your stream because when Clover's not around, so I'm going to call some of those in just periodically throughout the course of our play today.
Perfect.
Last but not least, we've got Will Yobst. Will, tell people who you are, what you do, where they can find you online.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm Will Yobst. You can find me online at Will_JOBST. I make role-playing games. I publish them with Good Luck Press at goodluckpress.co. My newest game, Torque, is at the printer right now and will be live in February. So I can't wait for you to check out that post-apocalyptic car PG.
Ooh. We also, Torque is one of my top 5 most anticipated releases of 2022. So go check it out if you have not. Look at that. Look at that cape / playmat. With that said, we always use a couple different safety tools here on the channel. It depends on what the game suggests. If the game doesn't have one, we have a couple that we use regularly. That's lines, veils, and the X card. Lines are things that may happen in the world of our game, but don't happen in the course of our play of it. Veils are things that we may handle in a specific way as they come up. And then X card is the ability for any of us to pause the game at any point in time and just say, hey, I'm confused, or hey, I don't like this. You just have to identify what it is. You don't need to explain it so that we can move forward in a different direction. We also use an open door policy. So if you see one of us have to get up, move away real quick, that's fine. That's okay. People are people. In real life, things happen. Also, sometimes we might have to eat or drink or do other things. That's all okay. And if you need to do those things, you should do them also. With that said, we always have a strong line against sexual violence here on the channel. But are there any other lines or veils anyone wants to add?
Maybe just keeping it rated R.
Cool.
So no PG-13. It's got to be. It's got
Right.
to be.
And we
hard R.
gotta elevate it.
We have to. Sorry, we have to swear. I'm sorry.
That's fine. We won't use the normal. Let's only say one F word rule. It's really just a conceit. It never works out anyways that we have on channel. No, I'm 100% down with that. Cool. I know we talked about a couple other things beforehand that Adam already has. Adam, why don't you go through cats for everybody about Necronautilus in the session we're going to do so they just kind of know what they're in for?
Totally. I'm going to read the cats just straight out of the book. Cats, of course, is an acronym for concept, aim, tone, and subject matter. The concept, Necronautilus, is a game about cataloging an infinite space and interacting with infinitely varied life forms. Simultaneously, it is a game about the subjectivity of language, memory, and reality. The aim is to inspire creativity among our players, to enable power fantasies in a gonzo setting with interesting characters, to explore and engage in interpersonal drama to further the shared narrative, and to consider subjectivity in and out of the game's narrative. The tone is heavily inspired by heavy metal and pulp sci-fi. This particular module, Pentagram, is going to be more on the metal side of things. This game rides the line between strangeness and sincerity. It often becomes violent. As play continues, the tone tends to shift to heartfelt and dramatic as play focuses more on memories and life. Since this is a one-shot, I don't know how sincere we will get, and that's totally cool. Subject matter that, content warning stuff, religious, professional, and ethical conflicts. Again, because we are playing in Pentagram, religion will likely... We'll be skirting around that as we're playing with demons and hell and stuff. Drug use and potential abuse, violence and gore, balancing duty with personal desire, emotional drama through individual character memories, and potentially fear and aspects of horror. Specifically, again, today, with the Pentagram module in mind, there's going to be a higher presence of magic in witches and stuff, and also blood and hellfire and demonology, and we're gonna just continue that gonzo train straight to hell.
I heard there might be goop. Goop also. Is there goop?
There's goo. There's goo, gob, gibby dibby.
Awesome. Also, I did open up a giveaway. If you have not yet, and you retweet the tweet I put out this morning about the post, you can get over on Twitter. You can get entered into a chance to win a copy of Necronautilus and let people know that we're streaming right now. If you go do that, if you quote tweet it, I'll give you 2 entries. You can, if you didn't do that already. Also, we are giving away what I'm going to just call an upgrade pack for a Cyber Metal pledge. You'll get some Game Found credits from Adam to upgrade your Cyber Metal pledge if you've already pledged, or if you haven't. To offset shipping and or something else when you do, let you add something cool when you get the game as well. So you can type in "Let's Cyber" in order to to get a copy to get entered into that giveaway. Go ahead and type in ! Let's Cyber. You do have to be following us here on Plus One EXP in order to get that. Why are we all laughing? I don't know.
Let's Cyber.
Let's Cyber, baby. I've never typed in a giveaway code that doesn't feel a little bit sexy. So
Exactly.
With that said, I'm going to hand things over to Adam to get us started.
Great. We sort of expedited play a little bit and made some characters in advance. I'll allow each of you to introduce yourselves and go through that in a second. But first, I will read the story pitch from Pentagram, the module that we're going to be playing today, which I should mention is available for free on the Necronautilus itch listing at the World Cham Game Co.itch.io. And yeah, you can play this on your own. It will get weird. It is non-canon, so the things that happen today won't affect your game. This is just a weird instance of a quantum infinite number of instances of the city of Pentagram. In a living city called Pentagram, demons, husks, vermin, and humans clawed at and climbed over one another every day to survive in an isolated technological hellscape, hacking and dozing themselves into oblivion to cope until their consciousness became so weak, frequency waves so muted, that they find themselves here in an uncanny afterlife. Now, on a dead planet called Pentagram, citizens continue their perpetual plight in pursuit of something more than they have. They replaced their limbs with cybernetic approximations hobbled together from crashed satellites, slowly shedding the little life left in their bodies. Blood drips and falls through the cracks of the streets, absorbing into the planet's crust, where hellacious energy brews beneath, collecting the spiritual energy of the cyber-surgical sadists above and coagulating as blood witches. A few scrambling citizens now attempt to collect enough blood to power an escape vessel before the mutated Ickers make their move and their cyber-metal planet crumbles beneath their feet. This is a hex crawl adventure, so we have a small map that we're going to be traversing, but before we get into it, I should mention each of these hexes is itself a 6-slice clock. And whenever you kill something in that space, or when you leave that space, it fills a slice of that clock. If that clock is completed, that hex falls off the planet. The planet that we're on, Planet Pentagram, is crumbling as we walk on it. So it's our goal to get enough blood to power the blood vessel and get the remaining citizens off of Pentagram Planet before it depletes itself and its resources, and the blood witches just bring everything down into hell.
Hey, Adam, that's real good.
Thank you.
So it's just like a regular session of a game.
It's like a game, an adventure game. Yeah, the clock crawl. I feel like this is a novel thing. We're gonna try it out. The hexes deplete as you use them. Why don't we each go around? We'll start with Spencer, and each of you give me the name of your death agent. As I mentioned earlier, death agents are souls that are trapped in clouds of sentient gas, and you traverse the infinite universe in service of God Death. So just give us your title and the reason that you became a death agent.
All right, so my character's name is Rasp. Surprise, surprise to some folks who've played with me before in games. My name is Rasp. The reason I became a death agent is because I was tricked into eating a forbidden cake. When I ate that cake, I died, and it sucked my soul into this infinite void in which I have been sort of registered as one of these agents until I can make do on this debt that I owe for eating this delicious, delicious forbidden cake.
Perfect.
I'm sorry, was there anything else you needed?
What could I ever possibly need more than that?
What words do you have?
Oh, yes. My words are void, clover, and cake.
Just so you know, words have a minimum of 4 letters, which you've met. But in the event that those words fracture, you'll then have to replace them with new words from your collection.
Yeah.
But that's going to happen regardless, because we're playing a high stakes, high risk game today, I think. Will, why don't you go ahead next?
My name is Munificent. I was a longtime enemy of the Death Agents, and then I thought I could come from the inside and kind of shape the organization to my will.
That's
so
awesome.
my reason is to put the I in team.
Love it.
Yeah. My words: Eschaton, number 1, ammunition, number 2, and Wordle is number 3.
Love it. Tony, what's up with your Death Agent?
So my Death Agent is Judge. They have the words, and look, I just rolled everything originally for the most part until everybody else started getting real brandy with theirs, and I couldn't be outdone. So my words are beard, paradise, scorched, hunted, beard, paradise, and scorched, and then in my collection I have hunted, stoned, and golden. My reason is a coven of witches cursed me, forcing my hand to become a Death Agent.
Killer. So if everyone's ready, we can just dive right in. Your Nautilus, the ship that you traverse the infinite galaxy upon, is speeding towards the planet Pentagram. You've been already briefed with this mission that you basically need to extract whomever possible. Of course, the Nautilus only supports life forms such as yourself, these sentient spirit clouds. So you cannot bring more conventional humanoids aboard the ship. You've been briefed that they are building their own ship, but that it is incomplete, and your assistance is required to complete it within time before the planet crumbles. You've also been warned of the 3 blood witches. They are around, they're scattered around. They don't tend to work together. They are sort of autonomous monsters that share a common goal, but work in their own ways and in their own sectors. You also know the planet Pentagram is more technologically advanced than many of the planets that you've traversed in your time in the agency. It's effectively a cityscape, whereas many of the planets that you've visited in the past are more remote and more nature focused. This one has more of a built up setting. There's buildings, there's wires connecting everything. There's a pretty populated area, and much of it is made from metal, from versus woods or again natural resources like plant life. This planet, it's had a relatively high gravitational pull, so when you have space garbage and spacecraft floating by, it would sort of get sucked into the gravity and just plummet here. And the citizens managed to work together to harvest it and to make the most of it and create this sort of technological utopia. But in doing so, they have really expedited the turmoil and dissolution of the planet itself as it fails to produce natural resources any longer and has just literally begun crumbling under their feet. So this portion of this planet is the only remaining portion that you could possibly land on. The rest of the planet is drifting off in chunks into space, becoming that space debris that it was once composed of. Ashes to ashes, dust to junk. And your ship is now spiraling down. You can see the flames kind of curving around it as you enter the hellacious atmosphere of Pentagram Planet. And below where the landing site that you have pre-programmed into the ship, you can see not much. There's just sort of red dust everywhere that's sort of obfuscating your vision. It's almost like a massive cloud you can see the tops of some buildings kind of peeking out of, but for the most part, you are falling into what seems to be one of the less stable sections of the map. What do you do to sort of prepare your vessel for landing? The Nautilus has an automated landing procedure. So it's not like you have to manually do the controls or anything. But because you're landing in a tumultuous area, you might benefit from taking certain precautions or abandoning ship before you touch down on whatever might be underneath this red cloud.
I put a little bit of my own gas in a jar, and I stick it in a locker in the back of the Nautilus.
Cool. Like as a self-preservation, like a backup.
In my mind, this is my backup. Yeah, I don't know if it works. I haven't ever had to use it. I just come back and get it after missions so far. But this is like, my hope is that if something happens, this is where I come back to.
Cool.
I definitely want to hop on the scope and see what lay of the land we can get while landing.
Sure. You can, as you kind of like zoom in and you enhance, you can see this isn't just a cloud. This isn't just debris. This is an active storm front. This is a firestorm, which is relatively common on planet Pentagram. This storm, it's like a hurricane that's sideways. It's a buzzsaw that's just tearing up the ground beneath it. And in doing so, it's pulling these fires from hell up from the ground, and it's slamming this debris that it's creating back into the ground in a sort of cycle. And you're due to fly through it, presumably. Like the Nautilus is smart enough that it can probably pierce the eye of the ship, but you will be landing in the firestorm like section of this remaining planet face.
Are we worried that the Nautilus is going to get shredded if it's planet side?
Not so much. The ship will be fine, but when you get off the ship, you will then be like at the firestorm heart
festival. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah. So if if our ship is gonna make it, I was at first thinking like I'm gonna just activate like a beacon just to let other agents know like we might have a ship down thing, but if we feel like we're gonna make it through and it's more just dealing with the other side, I think it's just at this point for me, I'm looking at Judge like putting gas into a jar. I see the scope action going on, and I just accept fate at this point. Like I consider myself an agent of death, but also an agent of the cake. And I just like lay back in my gas chair and I go, all right, let's see how this goes.
Yeah, the Nautilus, when you're on missions, it sort of stays floating above the ground. So even if in the event that this section of planet Pentagram is disintegrated, the Nautilus will just sort of hang around and hover and wait for you. So you're not really at risk of losing yourselves to the crumbling planet. You are, however, at risk of losing the remaining citizens of planet Pentagram because they cannot board your Nautilus. So in a selfish way, you're fine. Whatever happens here, the three of you are likely going to be able to get back on your ship and get back to business. But your mission, again, is here to extract what few souls are remaining before the thing falls apart. But that said, the ship does like pierce the needle, the eye of the storm, and you can land in this area that's sort of on the outskirts of the city. It's less developed, whether that be as a result of the buzzsaw action destroying part of the city, or if the citizens just decided this was not an area that was worth building into. And you can see a little bit more of the natural growth of the region. These trees and small bushes and plants that almost look like they're made from stone. They tremble and waver in the wind of the hurricane, but they're not like as rigid as real rocks, but they look like they're composed of something similar. And you can see their root structure almost glowing through the red of the earth. This sort of hell energy that they seep from the planet itself in an effort to grow. And walking among them are these massive quadruped amphibian sort of creatures. You'll see one kind of like slopping around and slamming its tree trunk like limbs down before kind of swimming into what looks like a lava pool, like a massive lake of molten planet. And they're just sort of not paying you mind. They're just these big ass steel beasts that are not quite caring about you, but they clearly dominate this area of terrain. And you know, the Nautilus releases you. You're among these steel amphibians and this impending firestorm and these pools of lava. You can see up ahead about a couple miles, but definitely within sight, the outskirts and then into the downtown area of Pentagram City. What would you like to do?
Could we ride the frogs into the city?
You can definitely try. Do you have any kind of words that might help you communicate with or otherwise tame the amphibians?
Gang? One of you has frog talker, right?
Yeah, I forgot that was one of my.
I took frog talker. First word I took. Yeah, I want to use the most powerful power. Oh, go ahead.
No, you got it.
I'll use the most powerful power word of all time, beard, to cause the roots of the trees to come up and form beard-like rains over these creatures is what I'm going to try to do, allowing us to tame them and ride them into town.
Awesome. So since this is our first die roll, I'll just give a quick overview. You're going to roll 2d6 and hope to get under or equal to the word's value, which since we're starting the game, all your words start at 6. If you roll under, you succeed. And if you don't, I'll tell you what happens.
I don't.
Okay. So rolling over indicates failure and or consequence. That means the word itself evolves. So beard becomes something more. You write down additional letters, additional affixes, or another word to make a short phrase. So beard on your list of powers becomes something more specific and more powerful. That 6 will become a 7. So in the future, you're more likely to succeed, but the uses are less broad. So what would you like to turn beard into?
I'm just going to turn it into bearded for right now. Does that work?
Cool.
Is that a
That's
suffix?
great.
Cool.
But your attempt fails. You sort of will the roots of these plants, these like magma soaking tendrils up from the plants in an attempt to sort of domesticate or wrangle?
Wrangle these things. Yeah. And I think it just looks real bad. Like it's just not a good beard. Does that make sense? Like it doesn't quite connect all the way across, which doesn't allow my word of power to really like do it. So like it fills in like they get right here, but not like it doesn't come all the way across.
And in addition to that, because these were leeching life force from the pentagram planet, they are molten hot. So despite these creatures being amphibious, they are like singed by this root like touching their face. And now you have, let's say 3, because there was 3 of you, and 3 of these amphibians now slightly singed and perturbed by your attempt to wrangle them. So the 3 of them are just gonna kind of like turn and face and pay it. They're one of them's like kicking up dirt. I don't know. There's a term for that, right? Horses do it. It's cool. And
dirt kicking.
Is that champ? No, champion is at the bit.
Champing. Yeah. There's a word.
Anyway, they're doing it. They're doing it, and they're doing it at you. It's very clear.
I'm gonna use word of power, Wordle, to algorithmically find the way to communicate with these steel frogs. As we all know, Wordle is a way of using your whole brain to figure out one word. So
great. So roll a d6 or 2d6 rather, and you're trying to get 6 or less.
No, I got a 7.
Okay, so Wordle evolves as beard turned into bearded. You can add letters or affixes to that and change it. But I think you are trying to find this 5-letter word that like calms these beasts. And you maybe got like 1 or 2 of the letters are in the word. They're yellow, but they're not in the right place. And one of these amphibians is now going to charge at the 3 of you and just sort of like alligator roll clothesline, like a crossbody wrestling move. So they get a running start and they just turn sideways to try to tackle all 3 of you.
Sometimes Wordle makes people really mad.
Yes.
This is normal. So yeah, Wordle will evolve. So it is Squirtle now.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And the value becomes a 7.
Great.
So what do you do? Rasp, maybe you've got something here to prevent taking damage from these amphibian crossbody attacks.
So yeah, I have been graced and blessed with visions of the void, and I understand that just like this afterlife is sort of a parallel plane to the living plane, there is a plane like the void that we can just kind of temporarily shift to for a moment, so that these things will just run right on comically through our bodies, giving us an opportunity to just like peace out with their confusion. So I'm hoping to just sort of like just put a nice little void veil over us.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right, here we go. I got a 10.
Okay. So again, Void evolves. You get a +1 for the next time, but your plan doesn't quite play out the way that you want. You do kind of create this almost illusory escape, right? The amphibian doesn't quite know where you went, as you exist in multiple planes of reality at the same time. And because it's angry and confused, it's just sort of stomping around in the area it last saw you. And the other 2 amphibians join it and kind of create this massive fracture where you once stood. And when your void sort of runs out, when you try and can no longer maintain this void magic, the 3 of you now fall into this crack within the planet and are scorched by these hell energies. You're not so far that you fall into lava, but you're definitely harmed, and each of you takes 1 damage, so 1 reduction of your life as you plummet into this heap of death cloud in this pit. And now the 3 amphibians kind of look down upon you within this pit.
My bad.
And just as a rule explanation, creatures do damage equal to how many remaining slices are on their clock. And since this would be 3 and you each only have 6 life to begin with, I just split it up to 1 for each of the 3 of you, rather than each of you taking 3 and this adventure being very short. Never reaching the city.
What are we gonna die? Come on. So
you're already dead.
We're in trouble. This is a catastrophic failure on our part. How do we get out of here and get into the city?
Yeah, I think. Oh, and by the way, my void evolved into a void.
Nice.
Because I've learned that I need to avoid things better in the future.
As a reminder, too, you each have 3 words in your collection that you started with. You can turn one of those into a word of power at a starting value of 6. It just costs you D6 life. So, if you're in a real pinch and you can't figure out what to do with your existing words, you do have a couple backups, but they might completely drain you of life. It's a last-ditch thing, but I just want to remind you that it's there.
I'll try it. Okay. Talk to me about the Nautilus right now. Is it near our situation? Did we land and then immediately?
It's basically like, it's like your parent dropping you off at school. Like It's around. But it's making sure that you get in there safely with that while maintaining a long enough distance that you don't get embarrassed.
It's kind of patronizing, is what you're saying. Can I remote in and just get it to like blast some thrusters at it, or maybe use my word of power ammunition to kind of perforate these frogs?
Yeah, so you're able to use the Nautilus in this way on satellites and moons, like smaller scale missions. I'll say because Pentagram is a planet that is falling apart, it can logistically be considered a moon, and you can access like Nautilus terminals remotely in this way.
Cool.
Let's see. I wasn't prepared to use ship stuff. Let me get into that.
How about I use a word of power and then channel it through the ship?
Cool.
Does that sound?
Yeah.
Cool. I'll do ammunition. I'm rolling. A 5.
Woo.
So you are going to be able to do this. When you successfully roll on a word of power, it generates a memory. So what is a time, Magnificent, that sort of inspired you to take this course of action, whether it be using thrusters, burning stuff, something that otherwise like is evocative of this moment. And then once you have that, you can, however concisely you want to write it, add that to your memories on your character sheet with a starting value of 7. And those become powers that you can use in a similar way to memories of power or words of power.
Great. Yeah. So before I was a death agent, I was like the one they send in on crumbling planets to get people out, to make sure people stay, that kind of situation. Kind of a bunker buster of a human being. So in these situations, I've been in the foxhole a lot, is what I'm saying.
Killer. So the Nautilus will kind of like swoop down and like drift and just kind of blast this. What does the sort of, because these are steel amphibians and we're on a hell planet, like what does the exhaust or what does the thruster of the Nautilus look like?
You know the cover of Necronautilus?
Yes.
It is that color palette just spitting out goop style.
It's rainbow goo.
Yeah, it's just polluted.
Cool. I think in addition to it kind of blasting the amphibians away, it almost coats them with it's almost like a fire extinguisher, right? This goop kind of acts to cool them down and also physically suppress them. Maybe it's even kind of getting crusty, like it dries out because of the arid temperature of Pentagram, and it's causing them to like almost be mummified in place. So you now have this opening, like they are pushed away from the whole of this crevice that you find the three of you stuck in. They're still kicking, but they're not in great form. So it's up to you all what you want to do next, whether you still want to continue the path of riding them or if you want to just get the hell away from them.
Yeah, we just get the hell away from them.
Yeah, I say we peace out. If they're mummifying, I say we're out of here.
Cool.
And let me ask you all a question here. What are the layers of a planet but the layers of a cake? We travel through this molten core to quickly get ourselves to Pentagram City so that we don't have to deal with any of this surface level nonsense.
I love it. Maybe because I really want this to happen and our rolls aren't going great so far.
Hey.
Part of the game is that you can manifest physical items out of your cloud self, and those will give you a -2 to your roll. Maybe you could like create a cake fork or a cake spork or something.
I think I've got like a nice palette knife that I would normally use to like get nice clean lines and layers on my frosting, and kind of making a palette like a palette knife goes in front of us, just pushing the molten core out of the way, and we follow it along to Pentagram City.
Or riding a magma chute to Pentagram City.
Exactly.
Take me down.
And what is magma but a type of ganache?
Exactly, right?
Great. So yeah, you have a -2 to your 2d6 roll, and you want to get under your cake value.
Spencer's
God.
been waiting to hear those words his entire life.
Truly.
My cake value.
I rolled a 5 naturally,
Nice.
which already is below. So I got a 3 there. So very, very
Killer.
successful.
Yeah. You have a memory. I probably cake based. It could also be based in travel or tunneling or something. So you're going to want to add a memory to your list with a value of 7 that you'll be able to use in the future. But what does this moment, this success, inspire within your recollection?
Yeah, I think I have a moment where I'm like, I've just finished making a cake in some sort of, a kitchen of my past, and it looks pretty rough and not great. And somebody important to me, I can't tell who it is, comes in and they kind of guide my hand like ghosts. But instead of making a clay pot, we are palette knifing this cake into a smooth, beautiful piece of perfection.
I love it.
I'm getting such like Lewis Carroll vibes from your past.
So you're able in this way to kind of like carve your path from the outskirts of this firestorm, evading the worst of the saw blade action as you go like under and you tunnel beneath the crust towards the heart of Pentagram City. If you're looking at or following along on the hex sheet, I imagine you're going towards the center, towards the G hex, which is where the ship, the escape vessel, the blood vessel is being built. I couldn't resist calling it a blood vessel, dude.
Fucker.
It's so good. No, I heard it when you said it the first time. It's so great.
Surreal. So
we're losing basically down a ventricle to it as well.
Yes. Jamaica has a hell sled team. I feel like we're bringing in the brain trust energy of one line. Like, what are we going to call this episode when it's done?
Yeah.
Magma Ganache is a contender. Anyway, we're getting in there. You all pretty swiftly ride this magma chute into the heart of Pentagram City. You're right in the center as you emerge from the crust in like Mole Man in The Incredibles, just like straight up out of the ground, and you're right there in the midst of everything. In doing so, I think you cause a brief panic among the vermin and husks who are in the region who are doing maintenance on this blood vessel. And you can see now that you're in the heart of it, you can't even see back to where you come from. That firestorm is almost invisible to you because it is masked by these high-rise buildings, the cables between them, the satellites that sit atop them. There's just so much visual clutter that you can't see 3 blocks away. Nonetheless, the 3 or 4 miles that storm was happening in. And
so we just see a bunch of rat tails scurrying around.
You see a bunch of rats. Yes, rat tails scurrying around. In front of you, I think as you emerge, the cake slicer dissolves, or I guess reconstitutes as part of your smoke cloud, Rasp, and the 3 of you are now stood in city center before this pretty large, organic looking mess. It looks like a David Cronenberg invented the escape pod. It's a round, like U-shaped, fleshy, pulsating thing that you might not immediately recognize as a ship, but obviously you were briefed on your way in and you know that's what this is. And a couple, let's say 2 rats and 2 demons come up to you, each carrying these bats that are wrapped in barbed wire. And they kind of like brace themselves and point towards you and say, like, what is your business here? What are you doing? Who are you?
We've come to help.
How the hell do you think you're supposed to do that?
Do we plan to get the blood witches or to help fuel the ship? What are we feeling?
I feel like fueling the ship. Like with everything exploding off the planet right now, I feel like we get whoever we can off this planet. And
So I will say as again as like a explanation of how that functions is you need blood to fuel the ship, and you can extract blood from each of the hexes on the hex map. You can extract an amount of blood maximum equal to the number of unfilled hexes. So if you're leaving a hex, if you're killing stuff within that hex, you're depleting the blood resource available, and you need at least 18 units of blood to power the ship.
I want to kill witches.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. I think that we don't owe these people an explanation until we come with like a bucket of blood, and they'll be like, "Okay, right."
Fair. Yeah, so the last question posed is how the hell do you think you're supposed to help? And they just kind of start laughing at you.
I guess we just continue to be wisps of hell energy and just look
Did you
for.
see our entrance?
So I remember there's a way I can take a word from my collection and add it to one of my words, correct? Remind me of the mechanics for that. How does that work?
Oh, so you can assist other people, basically burning words from your collection, almost like scrolls in a more fantasy game. So you can, in doing so, give someone the opportunity to roll 3d6 and choose their result. Cool. You cannot do it to yourself, but you can compound words with one another. Also, because of, that's a thankful reminder. I want to give each of you a word. Spencer, I want to give you and these go in your collection. I'm going to give you the word slice. Tony, I want to give you the word ganache. And Will, I want to give you the word
powerlanguage.co.uk.
Brazen.
Cool. Brazen.
Raisin.
Can't wait to lose that and get Blaze again. Full Pokemon loadout.
As they laugh, I'm just going to use power word scorch just to pull some more of that hot magma ganache out of the planet and surge it into these two fools, because I do not like the way that they are talking to our gaseous form.
Okay. Go ahead and roll for that.
That is a 6.
Perfect. So that's the value that you have on
the
Scorch,
value
correct?
I have for Scorch.
In that case, the word fractures. So I do have a little clock here that I'm filling in to show your interaction with these folks. It was a 4 o'clock, and since you excel because you fracture, it's worth 2 slices instead of 1. But you now lose this word of power. You erase it, and you can make a new word from the letters of it, and you gain. And the new word has to be at least 4 letters. Any sequence you get. This is Wordle. Every letter that you lose, you gain 1 life for that. So
is 6 my max, or can I go above that?
For the value?
For the life I take, sorry.
So you can take all 6 and lose the word completely, yeah.
Okay. But I can go above 6 life, correct, is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, the ceiling is like 30.
Okay.
And then you become so close to your old life that you're indistinguishable from your pre-death self.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Your retirement effectively from the agency as you return to some semblance of living.
I'm going to take the word redo and drop some, get some HP.
Nice.
Killer.
I like in Necronautilus that the end of your character is basically staring at you in the face the whole time.
Yeah.
And you're trying to kind of balance board, stay in the middle.
Right. It's like working backwards from life.
Yeah.
Adam, can we extract blood from this hex as well,
yes,
where the blood vessel is? So, like,
work
here is still good for us.
So you extract the same way you would do anything in this game, which is using a word of power or a memory to do so. You can only extract from a hex one time. But because this is the first time that you've been in this hex, there is a maximum amount of 6 blood available to you in this space. If you fail, you lose access to that 6 blood.
Gotcha.
I would love to use a word of power on this hex right now to extract some blood, please.
Killer, before you do that, Tony, or Rasp, or sorry, Judge, did you physically want to scorch them, or did you want to like insult scorch them, or like what form did your scorch?
Oh no, I pulled liquid hot magma ganache
Yes.
out of the ground and I tore it through their bodies. So like we see a tendril of ganache reach up out of the ground, sear through one of their hearts. The other one looks kind of wide-eyed for a second and almost says something before it rips straight through the back of their throat and they drop to the ground, burnt.
Because we had 2 rats and 2 demons in front of you, I think that takes out the 2 rats, and the 2 demons are impervious to like this hellacious attack. So they kind of scoff. They see their vermin friends fall, and they just kind of shrug because you bring a knife to a gunfight when you bring fire to a demon showdown.
I do take one of their rat tails and put it in my pocket.
Love.
It's not mine, officer.
Love it.
I'm holding it for my friend.
Spencer, you had to figure out, were you going to say something, or were you just into that?
Well, I was going to do something to the demons, but I know Will said that they had something for extraction. Will we still be able to mess with this even post-extraction?
Yeah, you just can only do it once per hex. So once you extract this blood, I mean, this is the space where the ship is, so you'll need to come back here eventually anyways.
I can do mine in the background while you're dealing with, like, things that are affecting
politics.
Well, see, these demons, they are impervious to fire, but with a cake, what do we do with a cake?
Flambe.
We blow out the candles.
Oh.
We blow out the candles. We snuff out a flame, my friends. And these demons are nothing but hellfire, and I will snuff out these candles that are mouthing off to us so that our good friend can be extracting all the blood in peace behind us.
So, Spencer, I do want you to do that and roll for it accordingly. Since these are taking place at the same time, I will say this counts as giving assistance to your action, Munificent. So you're able to roll 3d6 and choose 2 as your result.
Wow. This cake business is good.
You're really paying off.
Somewhat of a cake boss.
But I'm just rolling 2d6, right?
Hoboken style.
You actually don't need to roll, Spencer, for that.
Oh, okay.
If we treat it as just like assisting this extraction endeavor. Will, how are you extracting the blood from the earth here?
A very quick side note: there is a Cake Boss vending machine in the mall near me, so it's just slices of cake, quote unquote, Hoboken style. Anyways, I have Word of Power Eschaton. Eschaton is like the doomsdayification in a religion, so this is perfect. I'm basically using my eschatological ability to spread my consciousness out through this hex and kind of gather the doomsday feeling from everybody and all of the spare blood they've got.
Love it. So yeah, because you're assisted, this is a 3d6 roll where you choose 2, which means you can also choose between, like, if 2 of them are under and 2 of them are equal to, you can choose whether you want to do a normal success or excel, because excelling obviously makes you lose a cool ass word. So that becomes a choice that you get.
I have to turn to a Pokemon somehow, so let's go. I will take I got a 5, a 3, and a 2, so I'll take the 3 and 2 and get a 5 under 6.
Awesome. Which is killer. Can you describe this kind of epic extraction of fluid?
Yeah, I basically become as gaseously thin as possible while covering the entire area of the city, and it's almost, I'm imperceptibly there until you see the hue changing as I'm absorbing the kind of argent demonic energy and everything like that.
Killer. I feel like you become like a blood cloud, like
Yeah.
able to then like rain this extracted ichor onto or into like the fuel port of the blood vessel.
And it's like goopy, like just
It's thick. It's like when your nosebleed is about to stop and you have that thick one.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I started. We said we were talking about blood here today.
And goop. So,
Goopy
yeah.
goop.
It's like that cyberpunk demon movie, Helltronic or whatever.
Oh, Necrotronic.
Necrotronic, yeah.
I
It's
love
very
it.
much like Necrotronic, shooting like electric blood goopy energy into the ship.
Perfect.
Someone in that movie is named Torkel, so it's kind of interesting.
If Urkel played Twerk.
Yeah. Did I write that?
Anyways, you've successfully extracted all of the available blood from the downtown central hex. So that's 6 units out of your necessary 18 to power the blood vessel, which is awesome. In doing this display too, I think these demons offer their fealty. They see pretty immediately that not only are you here to help, but you are more than capable of offering the necessary help. You aren't just showing up and being like, what can we do? You know, you have a plan and you're enacting that plan. So in that moment, and I think they're physically blown away by the candle blowing and emotionally blown away by this display of power. And they just both duck to a knee and like have their barbed wire baseball bats like in offering to you. And they're like, whatever we can do to help you, like you guys, you're killing it. Let's like, hell yeah. Thank you.
Did we just become motherfuckers in this world? Is that what happened?
In a way. Yeah, motherfuckers in cyber metal are like resource hoarders, which are generally villainous, but I would argue you're not hoarding so much as we're using what you literally need to get that to save people. So it's a utilitarian hoarding.
Hoarding for the common good, as all motherfuckers say they're doing.
Right. So yeah, you've extracted the blood from the center hex, which of course means there is no more available blood here. There are, if you go back towards the firestorm, there is still some blood in that hex that you have not tried to extract. We do have the 3 blood witches, and there are also 2 additional spaces. There are 3 blood witches, 1 in demon spirit, 1 in vermin spirit, and 1 in human spirit. Because you're in the central hex, you can kind of you can go anywhere on the map from here. So which blood witch would you like to go towards?
Did we say we were gonna go mess up a witch?
Yeah. I think Sea Witch looks like their blood realm encroaches the closest to the city.
I can do that. That's the vermin one. Everyone cool with that? So I think these demons, as they kind of bend the knee, they say like they give you the deets. Like you know that there's 3 blood witches that are forming here. They tell you explicitly where they are and how to get there. The blood witch in vermin spirit, which is the one that you've elected to go towards, is in what used to be the Wired district of Pentagram City. This is a urban development project from the 90s that sort of was planning for this technological boom future. Lots of, tech campuses and buildings, lots of wires and cables, lots of computer terminals and that sort of like just devices and hardware were here. Now it is somewhat of a electrical mess. These cables are crossed, these wires are stripped, these computers are broken down into components, people using them to create these gadgets and replacement parts for their bodies and become these mechanical figures. In doing so, sort of erasing and negating some of these advances that they made in their own recent past. and you're able to, they point you in the right direction. You can kind of see it even from city center. I mentioned the buildings and everything are really in close proximity and make looking out difficult. But the wire district almost has this energy sparking above it. You can see some of these wires crossed and some of these like technological failings almost like piling up in that district. Go ahead.
Can we take a hyperloop to get there?
Of course.
Can it be like broken as shit?
It's a tram. It's like a overground tram like they have at Disney World. And in doing so, it still has the voiceover recording from Cyber Metal from the 2012s, like from the Living Planet.
Elon Musk.
Holy shit. I'm writing that down.
Write that down, yeah.
How long were you sitting on that? Will?
0.2 seconds.
I like the idea that at certain points, people riding the Hyperloop all have to lean to one side because the tracks on one side have fallen off.
Yeah.
And so if everybody's leaned to the left, we just plummet into the gap.
Yeah, it is Donkey Kong Country, like level 4 out here.
Yeah. So as you like board the tram, it's giving you the spiel, right? Like the Wire District is this hope for a technological future boom. Like we, the citizens of Pentagram City, are prepared for what happens next. We are prepared for the internet. We've heard like we're going to make something called the internet. It's going to be great. It's going to allow us all to connect to one another. It's going to literally allow us to connect through the neuronexus ports, these jacks in the back of our skulls that run through our spinal fluid and into our brains, and allows us to communicate, allows us to adapt, alter our consciousness frequencies to be the best versions of ourselves that we physically, mentally, emotionally, socially can be. And as the tram brings you closer to the Wire District, you can see the failings of that promise, the breakdown of the technological advancements, and the hopelessness that the hope of Pentagram City offers its citizens in life and death. And as the tram kind of slows down to a rocky, shaky stop at the tram station in the Wire District, and the tram is completely stopped now, but you continue to feel these tremors and shakes. And you can see from below through this, like the manhole covers, through the underneath the doors of some of these technological warehouses that have been abandoned, the blood kind of seeping out and coagulating into little pools of thickness and goo. And it'll sort of like build up a little bit and then recede back into the earth, this pulsating blood flow as you have arrived within the Wire District. You don't see, this is not like downtown where there were people out doing things. You see corpses and bodies of husks and centipede mantis people. You see a few human corpses just kind of like drained of fluid, just dried out like mummies in the city streets. And everyone, they'll like temporarily be rehydrated by this blood pulsing and then be drained once again, almost like squeezing a dish sponge and just removing all of its fluid over and over again. And you're sort of at the tram station again. This is above ground, so it's like looking down upon this leftover mess of what the Wire District once wanted to be so badly. The Blood Witch in Vermin Spirit, of course, this is the coagulated blood of the vermin citizens of Pentagram City as they continue to shed. They implant their digital rat tails and roach wings, and in shedding them, their life force kind of drips into the earth itself, adding power, adding physicality to this Blood Witch that's harvesting its energies and thinks like, acts like, and effectively is like a vermin in a pool of blood. What would you like to do? You can see that it's around, but it hasn't necessarily done anything yet. You're just sort of party to its destructive force.
Is there a Jack nearby?
Always.
Always. Just like all
That's the promise of the Wired District and Pentagram City as a whole. There's always a sync terminal nearby within reach.
I want to use Power Word Paradise to flood the network with the momentary reality of what it would have been like had the promise of the internet come true.
Hell yeah.
And we'll see how I roll, and then we'll see.
Yeah, perfect.
If that works.
Yeah, plug in.
Welcome to
Oh man, that is
City.
2 1s. So
Whoa. Snake
That's
eyes.
the best roll you can get.
it's the good
yeah,
one.
so tell me how you display this Wired Paradise.
So all of a sudden, like you know, to everybody in the network, they all kind of hydrate back up for a second as everything pulses out, and their brains are flooded with a vision of a clean skyline over the straight lines of a beautiful, like, utopian city, where everyone is polite and interconnected because there's perfect situational awareness of both yourself and the other. And in doing this, as kind of everything surges out towards the people, I want to use that as a way to kind of drain power away from the vermin witch as they engage in this probably illusionary momentary reality of paradise that could have been had but is not.
I love it. You see the witch, so the blood witch in vermin spirit tends to take the form of a millipede. It is serpentine, it is long, and but it is, of course, massive. We're talking like Godzilla scale. So as this glimpse, this view of the technological paradise is broadcast among all of the creatures who died wired and those who still might have signal perception within their neuronexus, they are all kind of, you see some of these deflated corpses almost like being lifted in a spiritual way, and almost like the blood witch is like playing with its toys, and you can see them just kind of like floating in a way, walking down the street. You can see, of course, that they're being supported by these small tendrils of blood, playing with these corpse toys on the street and making this nice idyllic scene. And in doing so, the blood witch is exposed. It is sort of, you can see a couple inches worth of blood on all of the city streets, kind of like winding and almost making a train track for these toys to go on in this figure 8 through the Wired District. So it's still not pursuing you, but it is distracted by this illusion.
Do I do a memory?
Yes.
And it should be when I'm doing memories, should it be connected to something about what is happening?
Yeah, tell me about a time that you were wired into the internet yourself.
Yeah. We see like me in life. There's a long trench coat, and like I'm kicking down a door, and I've got a set of like glasses that like ones and zeros play across, and I kick into a room that's surrounded by where there's a group of people sitting in a summoning circle around a set of broken like keyboards and other bits of techno trash, and then I just start shooting every single one of them.
Great. I think we zoom out and see that this instance is like a moment within a virtual reality, because as we all know, guns don't work anymore in Cyber Metal 2012, as citizens have learned to manipulate their frequency waves, and bullets and fast devices just go straight through, but slow weapons like sledgehammers and blades, of course, catch these nodes and do the real damage on the streets of Pentagram City. So I think maybe you were a gamer.
I was a total gamer back in the day.
Cool. That's awesome. So the Blood Witch in Vermin Spirit is now distracted, playing with its toys, and widely exposed through the city streets of the Wired District. You can see too, it's like I said, it's kind of like holding up with these fingers of blood the corpses that were left on the street, but just to the side of them, you can see it's like thin millipede-like legs. It's not just a river; it is physically walking along these streets.
Should we extract? Do you think we can do it?
I'm ready to extract. I've got an idea, but
I'll help you.
Will, if you've got an idea.
No, do it. I want to give you a dice this time.
Ooh. Because you've been saying like that we get sort of these pulses of blood that kind of like come in and like infuse these corpses for a moment, then they like, go away, right? So I'm going to have something else absorb the pulses of blood as they come in. I'm going to have a field of clovers grow across the ground, and they will become blood-soaked as they absorb the next pulse, and then I will collect my bouquet of clovers to deposit into the ship later on.
Yeah, hell yeah. Munificent, you said you had a way to assist?
Yeah, do I use a word in my collection to assist?
You can do either one. If you use one from your collection, it's just reducing Spencer's roll by 1. If you use one of your words of power, you allow Spencer to roll 3d6 and choose 2, but you could take some of the brunt if that roll fails.
So I'll use one word in my collection because I don't have one that really super fits, but I've got Dipterian, which is a little kind of bug, and I would love the bugs to be on each one of these clovers, assisting in this kind of pseudo blood pollination exercise.
Great. So Rasp, you're rolling 2d6 minus 1, and you want to get under or equal to your clover value.
I got a 7. Minus 1 is 6.
Yes. The buggies.
The buggies worked perfectly. They were the exact right thing that we needed. The clovers just couldn't quite pollinate.
Yeah, I think we see like the clovers start to sprout, and they're like not big enough to hold the necessary amount of blood, and then the bugs like zip through and pollinate them, and they sprout like big old suckers, and then they suck up all the necessary blood. Ras, your word is going to fracture. So clover is no longer one of your words of power, but you can make a new word from those letters, and however many letters you lose, you gain that much life as well.
Gotcha. Can I contemplate that and get back to you?
Absolutely. You're able to extract again the maximum amount of blood from this hex, as you haven't killed anything here, and you haven't left the space since you entered it. So you're going to once again extract 6 blood, which means you're at a total of 12 out of the necessary 18 to power the blood vessel, which is killer.
We did a perfect job. That's 100% completion.
Yeah, you're speedrunning.
We're speedrunning this. classic Job style speedrunning.
We did witch skip through the Wire District. So that brought us right to, I mean, that's in engine timing, but
I'm gonna dish out some new words too. Tony, I want you to get the word gamer.
So mean.
Pro gamer stuff right here.
Or we could take virtual. I guess that's more in line with.
I got gamers already on my sheet. Already on my sheet.
Okay.
No retcon.
Will, how about you take
gamer?
Insect. Everyone takes gamer. Will, how about you take what's a cooler word for a type of insect?
How about
infestation?
That's great.
And Spencer, harvest, I think, is a good one for what just happened here.
Nice.
So those words go into your collection.
Can we save the Blood Witch?
Yeah, how would you propose doing that?
I mean, it was simply appearing as ourselves, I think, should do it. But just like, we should save everybody we can on this planet, including controversially, I think we should help. This is a blood witch with nothing anymore, right?
Yeah, I mean, a blood
Wait,
witch.
is this whole thing the Blood Witch's fault?
The blood witches are the sort of. So the blood that you're using to collect the ship is expediting the destruction of the planet itself in the same way that these blood witches formations are. So they take on the spirit of the things above that shed the blood to make them, right? This one in particular is the vermin spirit. So all of the bug people, all of the possum people that were once citizens of Pentagram City that shed blood sort of coagulate and become this blood witch. A sort of hive mind sentience from all of the vermin that have lived and died in this area.
Like this is the kind of demon you would trap in like a special jar. So, Judge, if you could do that trick that you did at the beginning where you caught some of yourself in a jar, I think this is a perfect.
Sure. I'll use the word redo to make that.
This is restorative justice. It's putting a witch in a jar.
The Judge does love killing witches, so I don't know exactly how Judge feels about this. Maybe he's like, I can keep this witch in this jar until I want to kill it later. When I got a real strong.
Your whole backstory.
Do what?
Yeah.
I rolled a 3 this time. We're good.
So that witch is in the jar. The blood witch and vermin spirit. Let's say you maybe extract the spirit from the blood, right? And because the first thing that you've done here, this harvesting and growth, took the necessary blood to fuel the ship. The witch now depleted this sort of husk of itself, weakened. Its now soul is extracted, because if anyone knows how to extract souls and put them into stuff they don't belong in, it's death. And you are able to channel that energy same way that you were formed and rescue the vermin spirit from the blood corpse and put it in a jar and take it with you.
I think the memory that pops up is like me opening an old wooden cabinet, and there's just row upon row of body parts inside of jars that are absolutely all different, horrific, and terrible.
Perfect. Add jar collection maybe to your your memory list with a starting value of 7.
Judge loves meal prep.
Tickler. So great. You're still in the hex where the blood witch of vermin spirit once was. That is C on the hex map if anyone's following along or if you have the graphic. And that blood is now extracted. You have a 12 total. You can either go back towards the central city and from there go directly to another blood witch, or you can work your way around the hex. North of you can see again this sort of the district. The Wire District ends, but you can still see more like urban development. There's more tall buildings and city stuff. To the west of you can see it's seemingly more populated. There's quite a lot of demons out on the street walking around. You can't quite tell what they're doing, and it's coastal insofar as the south end doesn't exist anymore. So it is the coast, the coast of outer space. But you can see them sort of congregating around the air quotes coastline, the edge of what's remaining of planet Pentagram.
Coastal property is hard to get no matter how dangerous it is. It's always hard to get. It's always
beautiful view into infinity.
Yeah. Do we want to head up north to, like, no longer looking at it now?
Just as like the northern district is similarly run down in the same way that the Wire District is. Again, Pentagram Planet is this sort of post-death Pentagram City, so everything here is kind of busted and fucked up. This is where there's a lot of the building of ship parts is taking place. This is where they're harvesting and collecting old relics from the technological advancement of Pentagram City in an effort to make the blood vessel functional and protective. So you can see that they're like bringing these huge pieces of sheet metal and like just armfuls of chipboards towards the center city from there.
Yeah, I was thinking we head up from B through A and go visit another witch.
Sounds great.
Let's do it.
Cool. Again, as a point of order, A is where the Blood Witch in Demon Spirit lives, and E, the westernmost point, is the Blood Witch in Human Spirit. So if that affects your decision of which way to go.
What are you guys feeling?
I'm down for Demon Spirit personally.
Great. So as you head north through the Wire District, you can kind of see the accelerated destruction of what's left of the city. You can see where the Wire District had these exposed cables and electrical shocks and stuff. Here are just sort of like limp wires falling out of the sides of buildings, not connected to anything, with no current between them. You can see what used to be wrapped in, protective insulation is been stripped, and the wire beneath it is frayed and almost creating these tendrils that kind of just lay across the city streets. And scurrying between buildings, through warehouses, across rooftops, and through windows, you can see a variety of different bug people. You can see roaches, you can see ants on their back carrying these CRT displays and computer towers. You can see, mantises kind of like using their stabbing like arms to sort of take down these warehouses and buildings that have been completely extracted from, as a sort of measure to say, we've got everything we need here. We don't need this building in the way. Let's take it down. Just sort of a calamitous frenzy of getting every part that they can find and extracting it for the service of the blood vessel. Yeah.
I'd like to move one of my collection words over into my words of power.
Killer.
At a very precarious 5 life, which means I roll a d6 and subtract that result from my life score to get a new word of power.
Correct.
Can't wait to die on stream. That's a 3. Dang.
Hey!
Got close, but you survived.
So I'm getting the word infestation.
Perfect.
That you so carelessly gave me.
And it has
I'm
a
now
starting
using
value
against you. What's the name of the GM in Necronautilus?
The GM. But
Gore Master.
Gore Master.
Galactic
probably
Mame.
Yeah, infestation, you have 6 starting value as if you started the game with it.
Great. I would love to then use that infestation to kind of make all the bugs my friend.
Love it.
Does anybody have any way to help?
Yeah, I would love to help you. I haven't got into the help action yet at all.
Yeah, go for it, Judge.
Let's see. I can either use one of my words on my list, which will give you an extra D6, or I can give you one of the other ones. And what are you're making them all your friends? Is that correct?
Yes, I am. Probably letting out a keening screech, communicating to the bugs that hey, I'm here. Let's fix this.
I'll offer up the word golden. This becomes a golden infestation.
Great. Is that a collection word or a word of power?
It's a collection word, so it's gonna be -1.
Okay, I'm rolling. That's a huge roll of 10.
-1.
-1, 9. These are not the bugs that I thought. These are different bugs.
We gotta get out of here.
Infestation works against you. So it does, you do have to add letters or affixes to that word and increase its value to 7. So next time you might have a better chance.
How am I gonna, okay, yeah. I can't wait to figure that out.
It doesn't, yeah, get weird.
Yeah.
But in your attempt to sort of woo them and let them become your infestation, you've instead united them against you. You managed to kind of harness the power of the word infestation, but not necessarily to your own means. As you can see, the ants sort of colonize, right? They sort of drop these CRTs and get into formation. The roaches sort of hovering above them, and you have two mantises with their like bladed forearms kind of on either end, and this whole kind of infestation infantry starts to march in order towards the three of you.
Have unionized the bugs against us.
God damn.
We got this. This is good. I mean, this is the collective spirit is just beautiful. So
if in this pursuit, I think the let's say 4 roaches are going to kind of swoop over you with an airstrike and drop some computer towers and CRT monitors onto the 3 of you. So in this game, I don't roll to attack. One of you rolls to, I guess, prevent or otherwise skew the attack.
Can I move a word over as part of this process?
Yeah. It will cost you life.
I did. I rolled for it. I lose 2 life, and I'm going to move the word gamer over.
Perfect. Yeah, this is very evocative of a Space Invader.
And so when are we rolling? Do we use a word of power? Or do we just use luck? What do we do? What is it?
Whatever your optimal course of action could be. Luck is usually your fail-safe worst case scenario. Whatever you can do with what you got.
Deep within my gamer heart. And as these things are starting to drop down through the air, and there's this Space Invaders reality forming around us, I just go into like full gamer mode and like start like hopping between these dropping things, kicking them out of the way. Maybe if I roll well. Hold on.
Yeah, if anyone can assist,
that might assist my gamer reality.
I have the power word avoid. So I'm going to help out my good friend to avoid things falling down on them so that they can properly kick.
That's one of your words of power, right?
Yeah, so that means you get to roll 3d6 and choose 2.
That's a 3 then.
Killer. You do get a memory from this. We're really doubling down on your character's gamer stuff.
Yeah. So I think what we see is back in it's obviously in VR because I've got the same weird glasses with the 1s and 0s going over the front of it. But now I'm dressed in a full suit of armor, and I am like, as people are firing arrows and other things at me, I'm like grabbing the bodies of people around me and using them as human shields while they all just kind of plummet to the ground as I avoid all the incoming fire by allowing everybody around me to die instead.
Cool. In that case, I think you're going to take out the roach horde, the over air infantry part of this army that's attacking you. I think you're almost like platforming, like they drop a monitor, and in kicking it, you also get some verticality from it,
right?
And you're able to go up and just sort of combo attack and take these roaches out of the sky.
It's very was it Final Fantasy? Which one Final Fantasy was it where you're like jumping towards the boss at the end and just having to hit X at the same time over and over again? Was that all of them, or just like 10?
I've never played a Final Fantasy, but I think
10.
They keep remaking them, so
yeah.
They don't okay.
Well, they keep putting the Final Fantasy out. They've done it like
they keep on promising this is the Final Fantasy, but then there's one more after.
It's such a scam.
The Final Fantasy, but no, really, is what we're looking for here.
Anyway, you wipe the roaches out. You do still have 2 manti and a collection of ant colony charging towards you in like a march, in a very proper, I guess, arrangement to push you out of the stronghold section of the city. Let's hear it.
I'm going to use my power word Squirtle to blast them all with water.
Go for it.
I don't need
This is
help.
Value 7, right?
Yeah, this is 7 for Squirtle. Oh, didn't do it. I got a 9.
What Squirtle attack were you using?
Water gun.
Yeah. In doing so, you do spray them, like you do kind of get left to right water display through them. In doing so, you accidentally create this like bridging electrical current between them. The ants, of course, carrying this hardware, and the mantis with their like metallic pincers are now arced with lightning between all, say, 10 of the vermin that are approaching you. And you're low on health, aren't you?
Why? Why do you ask?
Because they would, with this energy, like retaliate. Maybe like do a
hit me.
So there's 3 slices remaining on their clock. If you took 3 damage, would you go to 0?
No, it would be a -1.
Oh.
You can kill me, Adam.
I know, but we're at 3:30, so I want to make sure that we reach a satisfying conclusion of the story.
Sometimes
part of the story.
Sometimes Squirtle.
Yeah. Sometimes you get a little extra blood because your fellow Death Knight had a drop inside of him.
I can roll with that. In that case, Munificent, you are going to experience a rush, which is what happens in Necronautilus when you have 0 or less life left. So a rush is sort of your reason, the reason that you wrote down at the start during character creation of why you became a death agent. This is like a memory that overtakes you as your sentience kind of leaves this moment that you're in. The electrical arc kind of goes back into like the squirt gun, and you're just shocked, where your consciousness kind of is removed momentarily from your cloud body. So what does it look? What your reason was to shape the death agency from within it?
Yeah.
Maybe did you have an experience with the death agency that caused you to want to reform it? An interaction maybe before you became an agent.
Right. Yeah. I saw the way that some death agents would just kill a blood witch without trying to put it in a jar and see what happens. And the kind of carceral nature of the death agency and how death is really the great equalizer among all of us is kind of what I'm going for.
Perfect. So you kind of overcome with this sense of I don't know, guilt or regret, maybe. If nothing else, just like kind of anger of those things that led you to become a death agent. So you're sort of removed from this current encounter, and once the other 2 are resolve the bug army, we'll give you some stuff back. But in the meantime, you can add some aspect of that vision, of that memory rush to your memory list with a starting value of 7, and we'll come back to you once the bugs are taken care of. But in the meantime, Judge and Rasp are on their own as they see this water squirt attack backfire and evoke this electrical energy through the bug army themselves, as well as your fellow agent Munificent, who is now just sort of glitching out next to you.
So I have 2 words I could do it. I've leaned a little much into the cake, so I'm gonna pivot. You said there's 2 of these like mantis soldiers, right? So
yeah, they're on the flanks of the like ant lineup.
What do we know about praying mantises? Notoriously lethal lovers. And I have the word lover now from Clover. And as a result, I will have these mantici bond with one another and in a lover's rage turn against these ants, and then one of them will inevitably kill the other, and essentially take care of this bug problem for us.
I love it.
So we'll see how that goes.
Judge, if you have anything to assist, it's a pretty beautiful plan as it is, but
I am going to
I would also say if you don't have an assistance plan, Rasp, it might, I don't know what you could manifest in terms of items, but you could use your cloud form to make something to somehow help expedite this loving energy.
Is it permissible to? I'm sure the answer is yes, but if it's not, that's okay too. To move a word over from my collection to like pay the vitality to move it over to my thing so that he can get the D6 right away.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
I'm
gonna move Ganache over to being a word of power.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna sacrifice Ganache as this violent scene of romantic eroticism crescendos. I'm just going to spray Ganache all over everything and get it just, it's going to be real nice.
Cool. You do lose D6 life in doing so, which I know you've been attacked too, so.
Are my friends dead?
Oh,
again?
So I had been, but I remember I had sacrificed a lot of letters to get my HP up. So I was.
Yeah. Beans
so
is here, by the way.
Hey,
Beans.
Oh.
Am I rolling 3d6 or is
Yeah.
it
3d6? Yeah.
Okay.
I add power word beans to my list.
Everyone can put beans in their collection.
I will
Look
take
at
the
this.
4 and 2, which makes 6. Oh, beans.
Hi, Beans.
6.
Is 6 is that fracture or is that under?
Another fracture. That's another fracture.
Cool. So this is going to excel. So again, it's going to fill 2 slices instead of 1 on the clock, and you're able to. You tell me, because this is passionate.
Yeah, describe this Ganache bug passion.
I'll say there's 1 slice left on the bug army clock, so you don't completely wipe them out, but you're going to do a number on it.
Yeah, I think kind of my plan was that the mantises would just wipe out the ants. That would be fury, like lover's wrath, and then the lovers turn to one another, and we all know that one kills the other after a moment of passion. So that's our 1 slice left is the bruised and battered remaining mantis.
Yes. Among that as well, you have the Ganache kind of like
Oh, right.
pouring over, almost like raining over the army. And what you have as their sort of like their blood coagulates within the chocolate frosting, and you end up with like this hardened chocolate bar that seals all of the ant soldiers and the display monitors that they were carrying in like a rock solid chunk of chocolate. You have 1 remaining modified mantis left in charge in front of you, jolting with electricity. And Judge, remind me, did you hit 0 or are you okay?
Oh, I'm fine. No, I before I started moving words over, I had like 9 because of my shedding of stuff earlier. So yeah, I'm low.
Great.
Don't get me wrong, but I'm alive.
Sure.
We call that an enriched chocolate bar too, when there's a bunch of bugs and pieces of circuitry in it. If I want to make an item, is that 2 vitality? Is that correct?
Check. I forgot that it cost anything. So
I just make an item. I know there's a limit on the number of times you can do it. I felt like it cost something.
Yes,
but
the teeth on the character sheet, those 5 uses, those are how many times you can do this, and using an item reduces your roll by 2.
Right. That could be what I'm confusing, but that's what I was.
Yep, that's the cost. There is no like momentary cost to using one. I
get a jar. I make a jar out of my body. I pull out some jar.
There is a cost. I choose it. Since I haven't been doing that, we're just gonna go with it's freebies.
Okay.
And it's one shot, so who cares?
Yeah, I pull a jar out of my form and it ouchies a little bit, but it's not that bad. What I'm trying to do, though I don't know mechanically this is exactly what I want to do, because I don't know if using a memory looks like it's mostly healing. I don't know if it can impact that last hex or not.
So it can't. You can use memories almost the same ways that you can use words of power.
Okay.
It's just the fallout that it incurs on yourself is different.
Cool.
Like using a memory doesn't incur a new memory in the way that using words of power does. Cool. It does have the ability to restore life, but they also both have the ability to sort of affect your external circumstance.
So and as I close my cabinet of of jarred body parts, I open up the other wooden cabinet next to it, and inside there's just insects upon insects in another set of jars. And so I kind of fuse those two things as I stab this jar into the heart of this chocolate coated mantis.
Yeah, like in Tank Girl when they stab people and then extract their water into the jar.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. So go ahead and roll that memory for me. So it works the same, 2d6 and rolling under, hopefully, or equal to.
That is, I got a 5.
Perfect. So you're able to kind of like core out this remaining mantis, and you can see like the electricity that was powering the mantis almost being harnessed into its center and going into the jar with just a little bit of gore and a little bit of exoskeleton, while this thing kind of just goes limp and leans over you, now destroyed. So the bug army is now defeated, and you're still in the stronghold section, but because of the bloodshed in the battle with the army, there is not 6 blood available in this hex. There is a maximum of 3 for your extraction. I'll also come back to Will, since you've been on the sidelines for a second. You regain 1d3 life, d6 half and rounded up, and you erase your highest valued word of power. Then on your character sheet, although we're using character keepers here, so it's not really a spot, but you would add just a big old hatch mark somewhere to indicate how many times you've gone into the rush. Because, of course, rushing, remembering, is not well liked by the death agency, and if this happens to you too many times, they might send someone for upkeep.
Great. I very unfortunately have to delete Squirtle, which was upgraded when I failed to War Tortle. And yes, on my character keeper, someone just copy and pasted a big spicy pepper. So
it's a big hatch pepper.
Oh, perfect.
That's
great.
Is that not what that means?
Because it's digital. We can't get a physical pepper on there, and this is the second best.
Second best thing. I put a big hatch on there. And look at the size of that hatch. It's like bigger than that person's hand.
That's huge. That's a GMO hatch.
Would you like to try to extract the blood that's available in this hex, or do you want to go straight towards the Blood Witch and Demon Spirit? You're at 12 out of 18. You can get 3 from this hex, short of 3 that you lost with the Bug Army battle.
Well, there's no reason not to get this 3.
No reason not to.
Yeah, if we go somewhere else and only have 3, we're going to feel real dumb if we don't get this 3.
So who wants
3
to
in
make
the hand is better than...
I'm trying to think. Look at it all.
I could do the same thing I did the previous one. Just go cloud mode.
Yeah, go cloud mode.
Sure.
Somebody want to help?
I do. I have the word over now. So now your cloud can get an even greater presence over the district.
Nice.
That's a word of
power.
power. So you get 3d6.
Cool. I did it. I rolled a 5.
Killer.
Nice.
Actually, I'm gonna do a 5, and a 1. So I rolled a 5, 4, and 1. I'm gonna hit the 6 and then split my shit up.
Cool. So in that case, I'll give you an extra blood. We did say there was a maximum of 3 here, but because Munificent had their rush, there was a little bit of life left in the soil. So because you excel here, you're going to get +1 bonus blood, which brings your total to 16 out of 18.
Just go get a little more up north.
Need a little touch of blood. I mean, we can go see the other witch. We can just take blood from anywhere, though, right? Too.
Yeah. If you manage to extract blood from the demon spirit hex, you would have enough to escape. I'll also say, because you're at 16 out of 18, you could power the blood vessel, but without enough power to extract all of the remaining citizens, you would lose 20% of the remaining citizens of Planet Pentagram, who would have to stay behind because there's not enough thrust energy. So because we're nearing the top of the hour, I'll give you the choice of confront the Blood Witch and Demon Spirit and get enough blood. Risk your own selves to get enough blood to get all of the citizens out of Pentagram, or be content with what you have, leaving 20% of the citizens behind and getting 80% of them off planet before it crumbles.
Judge desires the death or jarification of all witches. I will say that as a whatever. Tony is fine either way.
Rasp, how are you feeling about that decision?
Rasp would be willing to sacrifice people in this case, but knows that there's the jarification, and I know that Munificent earlier wanted to save the witch when I was like, fuck that witch. So I know that my teammates probably want to save more people than I do. So I'm willing to help my teammates.
Munificent, it sounds like you might be the deciding vote in the trio of bail or forge forward.
I need to go to the hospital.
True, you did just experience a rush and you're still in bad shape. So
I'm 100%. I want to propose maybe I'm 100% down. I think we can convince Judge to not go after the witch, as long as we maximize the potential that the witches they die are in the 20% that don't make it onto the blood vessel.
If it is okay, can I let the 3 of you ponder it while I let the dog go outside real quick?
Absolutely.
All right, I'm going to go on mute. I'm going to let the dog out, and I'll let you kind of hash it out. And when I get back, we'll decide what the final course of action is. We don't have to have a character.
That's my goal, is to create some reality in which the last witch can't make it to the blood vessel ship, and I'm like, whoops, they died.
Let's mega destroy the planet then.
Yeah. I'm good with that. Also, if anybody's watching right now and you haven't, go ahead and hit follow and hit ! Let's Cyber in order to get entered into a chance to get a pack of upgrade credits for your Game Found pledge if you go back Cyber Metal 2012, which is the world we're playing in. You can find that at ttrpg.link /CM 2012. You can also just go to pentagram.city, but if you use the link that's listed, then Adam knows that I sent you and that you found out about it from here, which doesn't do anything other than lets us both know that and me feel slightly more satisfied in life. But go ahead and hit that if you haven't, and if you haven't retweeted the tweet from earlier today over on our Twitter channel at +1exp, go do that, because I'll look at that later and we'll give away a copy of Necronautilus to somebody who shared that earlier. Any other details we want to cover while Adam's gone?
If you're looking for more cool streams to check out, this Sunday is Spencer's coffee stream.
Ooh.
Coffee hang.
That's true.
Who's your guest this week?
The one and only. Well, they're escaping. Will Yobst. Will Yobst is going to be there to come talk to me and for me to talk to them about coffee and games, and probably Torque. Probably going to talk a lot about Torque.
Yeah,
Give me a
it'll be
taste
great.
of what that's going to sound like right now.
Yeah, so it's a I'm gonna practice a lot more between now and then. I
Oh,
think
perfect.
I'll probably get a PDF so we can look through it together if you want. That might be fun.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Ooh.
I would love to do that.
Exclusive.
Sneaky peeks. Sneaky peeks.
There you go, folks.
I guess also I could plug the things we have coming up tomorrow night. We've got What Lies Beneath, which is a mothership panic engine powered nautical underwater adventure with touchstones of Jaws and Deep Blue Sea. So if you want to come check that out, that's Gordon Act Games' second game going up for funding. We've also got our own game, Through the Void. That is itch funding right now over at ttrpg.link /TTV. You can go to +1.games to see all of the different games we put up, but it's itch funding right now. And we are unlocking another segment. Nora from Monkey Paw Games is going to be writing the next piece of world building that we're doing right now. So that's what we're working on funding for. And then additionally, you can join us on Saturday for Hull Breach. Ian Newsom and a bunch of the team from that mothership anthology. It's 20 different creators with 20 different adventures. We're going to be interviewing them about the creation process for that, and then playing Vibe Shetty, one of the adventures from the book. That's going to be right here live. So hit follow if you want to get notified when all that happens. Go check things out. But if you haven't pledged for Cyber Metal yet, go do that. Go pledge for Cyber Metal.
Pentagram.city.
Correct.
Yeah, I paid for
That's
that.
what
And I'm getting every penny's worth of that vanity right there.
I always get excited when somebody's got a good vanity URL.
The hopeful plan, obviously, with the Death Agent role-playing timeline series continuing into the future, that Pentagram City will be like a hub for future Death Agent games as well.
Cool.
But anyway, what did you all decide to do about this excursion?
Oh, go ahead.
We're gonna do the 6. We're gonna let 20% of the population die. But
Okay.
I want to make a roll to try to block the last Blood Witch from being able to make it off, and their retinue from being able to make it to the blood vessel. So that they are the 20% that dies.
Okay, fair. So you want to kind of like portion off that section of the hex map.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna use the power word bearded and a giant beard of like blood and circuits and like stone rip up from the ground, like blocking off that hex is my goal. That's what I'm trying to do. Big power move. I don't know if anybody wants to help me or not.
I can certainly help you.
What are you adding to the bearded?
I'm bringing the cake back. I
Bringing
gotta
the
bring the
cake
cake
back?
back. We're simply slicing off a piece of cake here off of this city and saying, sorry, we're serving this one. We're sending it off using this beard as the knife.
I love it.
So yeah, we see ganache from that. I seen like magma pours down from the top of the beard and a giant spectral blade. I rolled a 4. It was very good.
Great. So in that instance, you're able to get back into the center city. Those 2 demons that were awaiting, or that you confronted before, that pledged fealty to you, they like offer their praise. They say, "Okay, we're aboard the ship. Like, we're gonna get in the vessel. Like, you have the remaining blood to power the vessel. We trust. So we're gonna get the hell out of here. We're gonna find our new planet to reside on. Thank you for your help, for your assistance, and for extracting the blood from this planet. We need to go right now. And again, thank you. Do you tell them that you're leaving some behind, or do you just kind of let them live this fantasy and go live on this other place?
This is the worst day of their lives.
It could be.
It definitely is.
Their afterlife. So
Yeah.
it could get worse, but also, today's not really good.
I look at one of them and I go, I want you to know I did everything it took to make sure that there was space for you on that ship. So I tell them.
I think they like hesitantly nod, and then they turn and they drag their barbed wire bats on with them in tow. They walk, as twins in step, up the ramp onto this Cronenborgian disc.
Hold on.
Wait,
Oh
yeah,
my God.
we need to make Will, do we need to make Cronenborg.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Summer. Yeah. Okay.
Just Elon Husk and Kronborg I'm very excited to watch come out of this screen.
And you see the blood vessel kind of like rotate faster and faster, and you just see the streams of blood power it and propel it off of the planet Pentagram's gravitational pull into the infinite space of death. The Nautilus sort of hovers around you as you can see the kind of crumbling ground beneath you kind of melting into its magmatic self, mixed with this lava and blood into this boiling scab of gravity beneath you, and you're kind of beamed up onto your Nautilus, able to escape before that blood bursts into the infinity of the afterlife. And the three of you aboard the Nautilus and 80% of the remaining citizens of Pentagram aboard their blood vessel both escape the crumbling of the planet just in time as you watch the sort of blood witches kind of ingest the remaining life force of the planet and become this gravitational anomaly itself. So you did pretty good, not perfect, but any percent speed run, 80, great job.
It's a pass fail
For our first go round. 80% speed run is good, and so
that was very fun. That was really cool. I hope you all had a good time too.
That ruled. Thank you so much.
I had an absolute blast. So we're gonna do something real quick called reaction roll. As soon as I can find it, there we go. Reaction roll is a live stream within a live stream. It's our chance to sit down with the creator of a game, or in this case, games that we just played around in, and talk to them about what it was like to play that. Ask them questions. If you're watching right now and you have questions about Necronautilus or about Cybermetal 2012, this is a great time to type them into the chat. If you're watching later, feel free to type them in, and I'll funnel them to Adam through a tube of blood magma ganache in the center of the earth. For people who are not familiar with these games, give us the quick elevator pitch for what is Necronautilus and what is Cybermetal.
Yes, Necronautilus is a stoner metal inspired science fantasy where you exist in the infinite afterlife of the universe, traversing different planets that are generatively made and playing with words to do your will and then further the will of the blind god Death. And Cybermetal 2012, currently funding at pentagram.city, is a low-tech cyberpunk alternate history infused with heavy metal records and demons and rats and blood, money, and viral videos and all the weirdness that you expect from someone like me who makes games that look like this.
Awesome. Cybermetal is live right now up on GameFound. You go to pentagram.city, or if you really want Adam to know that I sent you, you can use the link down right at the bottom. That's ttrpg.link/CM 2012. But either way, I don't care what link you use so much as whether or not you go and actually back the campaign. Check it out. If for some reason you can't back it right now, I always encourage people back at whatever level you can, even if it's not for a reward. And one of the great things you always do is just share it with other people who you might think might enjoy the game too. So please support the game in any way that you can. I'm super excited to see what other folks thought. But let's hear from everybody else about what some of their thoughts were. Let's start with Lee Epps' arch nemesis, Will Yopes. Will, tell people who you are, what you do, and where they can find you online.
I'm Lee Epps, so you can find me online at Will_JOBST. I co-host the Brain Trust podcast with Adam here on a bi-weekly basis. We talk everything about games. We did a giant episode about Cybermetal was our last one. I recorded some extremely heavy music for that, so definitely check it out. Like you said, you can find me on Twitter. You can find all my games at goodluckpress.co or willyobst at itch.io.
Awesome.
And I have a question for the designer.
Gladly.
But I can hold that till after plug. Should we do that now?
No, go.
or-
Yeah, no. What were your thoughts about the
Great.
game, and what questions do you have for Adam?
Adam, I love playing your games because you set up basically the brackets around which my sentences and thoughts in a game can occur. You're literally doing that in a time scale wise by having this be the absolute last thing about Pentagram City and having Y2K basically be the first thing. But you do this from a design level, like a atomic design level, where you allow people to be creative inside of these worlds that you have authored. So it's definitely like a designed experience that we can make our own. What goes behind that that process where you're creating? I think anti-canon comes to this conversation, but it's really like it feels like I'm playing with all of the toys that you've ever owned, and like it's up to me about how I play with them.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to phrase it at the end. It's up to you how you play with them. My goal is to offer a variety of tools that all kind of work together in a nice way and allow you to choose which ones appeal to you the most. I mentioned at the start that Necronautilus can be this just gonzo violent power fantasy, but also because of the system of interpreting language and emerging memories and stuff, you can have actually really heartfelt experiences within that system if that's what you choose. Obviously, you know that we like making story games. We're fiction first, narrative heavy, kind of emotional stuff that can still feel really cool. The idea that, you know, Alien is about a cool alien, but it's also about the perseverance of humanity in the face of fear. And I want Necronautilus to reflect that. I want Cyber Metal to be, you know, a crazy game where you do acid and listen to Black Sabbath, but you also like evaluate what it means to be a member of a society and how you can work together to make the best of a situation in a society that doesn't care about you as an individual or people in lower caste systems. So it's always been important to me to offer people varied experiences because obviously games as a whole are varied experiences. And the way that I would play even a traditional fantasy game is not the way that the book tends to pitch at me, but it is the way that I find to be the most fun. So that's always been a pillar of my game design, is offer you the option and let you make it yours, not just in the setting, but in the mechanics and the whole package of this is yours the second it leaves my hand. You put that explicitly in Torque too, of as soon as you buy this, it becomes your game. It's no longer mine. So I want people to have the most fun in whatever form that takes, and whatever I can do to support that fun, I hope I've included in the book or its expansions.
Awesome. Love it.
Nice.
Well, is that satisfactory, Will?
Yeah.
Any other thoughts about your experience playing the game? Will?
Oh, I loved it. I like that process of playing this game and making a character is thinking about all of the words I've been thinking about. So like, not only is it asking me to be very freely creative, it's asking me to like do a mental inventory of the things that I think were interesting in the last month. And I don't know other games that make me do that. So I like that part.
Awesome. Well, let's hear from Spencer Campbell. Spencer, tell people who you are, what you do, where they can find you online.
Hello, everybody. I'm Spencer Campbell. I design RPGs and publish them under the name Gila RPGs. You can find me at gilarpgs.com. That's got all my stuff. But I got to start by shouting out, absolutely, as Sam has pointed out in chat, the music for that Brain Trust episode is ridiculously good, right? It must be acknowledged. It's so good. One of my favorite episodes to listen to just because of that.
Yeah, if anybody's looking for any spec music or anything like that, hire me. Come hit me up.
And Sam in the chat that we're talking about, Goblin Mixtape, is a professional mixtapeologist. So like they've got credentials that matter when it comes to saying that music slaps beyond their own personal opinion.
But speaking to the game, you know, this is the I've played Necronautilus with Adam and Will before, and it's been so much fun, and this continues to be an incredibly fun experience. My day job is as a cognitive psychologist, so I study things like language, how we use and process language and memories. So Necronautilus is like exactly the kind of game that lands into my space of like stuff that I care about during my day job and like bringing it together in an extremely cool and clever way in RPG. So I will gush and gush and gush about this game to the day I die. It's so good. It's so much fun. So thank you, Adam and Will, for playing, first of all, because that was great. I don't have any brilliant questions or deep questions off the top of my head, but I do have, when I think of your design, Adam, I do think of your art. I do think of your layout. It might be hard to show here, but is there a particular piece in Cyber Metal that you're like especially losing your mind over, where you're like, yeah, this was like, I had so much fun doing this, or you're like the proudest of it or something like that?
Adam,
Yeah.
if there is a piece and you drop it in Discord, I can easily get it up on the screen if you want.
Cool. I would actually say there's a handful. So it's worth mentioning now that there's also an art-only book companion as part of the Cyber Metal campaign called SSD, which is Symbolic Skin Designs. There, and obviously solid state drive. That's the joke there. Over 100 pieces of traditional American style tattoo flash that is inspired by the setting of Cyber Metal. So you have lots of pentagrams, lots of devils, lots of technology and lower technology mixed with these traditional American tattoo symbols. I actually have a sheet here in front of me that I'll hold up to the webcam that I haven't really shown off yet. But there's over 100 pieces in the SSD book. There's going to be 10 or 20 in the core book as part of a system that your characters have marks on them, whether they be tattoos, scars, birthmarks, or whatever. And you roll them randomly, but I just wasn't satiated after making 10 pieces in a D10 table. So there's a whole extra book of just that style of art. In addition to that, I did this piece, which again, I'll hold up. I did this piece on my own Twitch channel last week of a Husk hacker. Husks in Cyber Metal are digital consciousnesses and programs within human corpse bodies. And this was a really fun experiment. I don't think I would have got this piece if it weren't for doing it live and interacting with the chat and having that cohesion, because I talk to myself and think a lot while I'm drawing, but that interactivity and explaining my process and thought process while I'm doing it led to such a unique visual style that this like really sloppy cut and paste tape and marker piece is really the defining aesthetic quality of Cyber Metal. And the fact that I'm getting to do traditional media, I'm using charcoal for the first time probably since I was in high school. That mix of traditional media with the digital kind of visual language that we're used to in cyberpunk games is yielding this really interesting middle ground that I don't think anyone else is doing, or I haven't really seen. And it just makes me, every time I do a new piece, it's my favorite piece because I'm so fueled by that happy accident energy that comes from using real inks. And I think that bleeds into the setting, that bleeds into the character design, and just kind of all throughout Cyber Metal as a game.
That's cool. Love it. I had an absolute blast playing. It was my first time to play Necronautilus. I've read through it a number of times, so I was super excited to do that. I've been chatting with you about Cyber Metal for a couple of months now about the different pieces going into it. So was really glad to be able to have you on to be able to showcase the setting. I think Clock Crawl is very cool tech. Before I get into a couple of things and ask you a question, I'll hit some stuff from the chat though. Two really easy kind of very kind of as the person describing them, somebody of them described them, boring questions. Are you going to have the PDF available in single view and or spread view? How is it going to be digitally housed?
Yeah, I always do pages because I print my own zines at home, even of PDFs that I buy from other game designers. I also do spread view because generally the games that I make are designed for just full visual immersion, and I want you to have both experiences available to you in digital. So there will be pages, there will be spreads, PDF. There's going to be a rich text version as well, in case any of that visual stuff gets in the way of readability. at the very least, that's what exists currently. There's also the character sheet system involves like folding and manipulating. You like plug cartridges in as you update your software. But for the digital version, those software components will also be printable, so you can fold and plug in at your table. But I'm also going to isolate them as sort of like card graphics so that you can use them in digital tabletops. So there will be like a folder full of all these card graphics as well. And I'm thinking of adding the card deck as an add-on to the campaign as well. So you could physically have them if you're not someone like me that prints all of the assets and has them in black and white, like ready to go. This would allow you to have all of your software pack as playing cards and just place them on top of your character sheet. You do lose some of that like folding, organic plugging in feeling, but in service of a smoother, faster, and more accessible kind of play at the table.
We don't have a ton of time to go do it, but yeah, the character sheet concept for this and the fact that you're actually physically like slotting something on as you take in new programs, new skills, new uploads is a very, very cool thing that I cannot wait for people to actually see in their hands. I think it's hard for people to wrap their minds around how cool it's going to be. But the other thing that somebody asked is, I love retrofuturism, especially when it comes from a time period we don't commonly see. What drew you to the new millennium for your twisted dark future instead of an older or newer time period?
Specifically Y2K, like prepper attitudes. And I just, remember being in middle school and having computer access and not necessarily internet access yet, but that it was this like promise of a technological future at a risky cost, right? Like the idea that when the clock went to 00 on New Year's 2000, that everything was going to go bad and the world was effectively going to end. And that's such an interesting fictional hook because obviously that did not happen, but that starting the logical thought process of what if it did is very interesting. That along with the retro future actually starting in the 80s, but not necessarily wanting to play in the 80s, thinking that technology was too low tech to mess with cyberpunk. So my timeline actually begins in the 80s with Death Agent, the metal band, rising to success, putting out their records, touring, and then of course sacrificing Ronald Reagan on stage and opening the gates of hell in a demonic ritual. Rather than exploring that right now, which I think I want to in the future, I was more interested in that being the impetus of the alternate history, the split of the timeline, and then playing 30 years later and seeing just how gonzo and weird everything got as a result of this event 30 years prior.
Yeah, so for anybody who hasn't tracked it, you're creating a timeline that you want to create in more in the future, which I'm super excited about.
Right, and the free game Y2K that's available now as a prequel to Cyber Metal is sort of my first time getting to play with that too. Of these games are set 12 years apart, but they're in the same location with some of the same systems, and that's such an interesting way for me to, and for you hopefully, to explore the setting, right? Like rather than me just offering you the timeline as a graphic file, there are stories you can tell within them. You can stitch them together or you can have them as isolated experiences. And it again allows for all these different styles of play and different types of fun to occur within it.
Awesome. And Will, I saw you raise your hand. Did you have a thing you wanted to say?
Oh, no, I'm good.
Okay, cool. The last thing I want to ask, because I know we all want to get on with the rest of our day, but if anybody else has any questions, drop them in the chat. We'll touch on those. As I've shared this in other places online, mostly the dark corners of Facebook, people's number one question has been to know more about the dice rolling mechanics, which are very cool for this because it's kind of an homage. Like you talk about them being intuitive and kind of being a kind of a nod to Mothership, some Blades in the Dark stuff also. Can you tell people a little bit about how the dice mechanic is going to work for this game?
Yeah, the core mechanic is a D100 roll, and you're trying to roll under a certain skill that you have. And that's, streamlined. That's in Mothership, in Call of Cthulhu. That's a game standard that a lot of us know. But D100 is typically composed of two 10-sided dice, and you use one as the tens and one as the singles, but you're looking at a binary success or failure value from the sum of those dice. And what I'm doing is letting you use the values you roll from that dice to determine multiple things in the same instance. So you can determine whether or not your skill worked. You can determine how much damage you do or how much you incur by failure. And you can determine what the fallout is. So whether things are okay, whether things start to get weird, or whether the circumstance really changes against your favor. And rather than those being all randomized, you're choosing from your dice roll and allocating those values to those results. So you can be forced to make the hard decision of doing less damage to have a less of a fallout, or you could incur more damage to save the group and have things kind of work in your favor, or vice versa. You can do less damage to yourself and have the group end up in a worse circumstance, or again, vice versa. You could have lowered, or you could do more damage and have things kind of get hairy as well. So every roll gives the player interesting decisions to make that also absolves the game master of having to decide every time of how things fall out.
That's cool. I loved it the first time we talked about it. I like the fact that you're rolling, you're kind of seeing where some things are at, but then the dice are giving you some tactical control, but all so kind of couched within a simple. It's still a percentile system, right? D10s is what we're talking about.
Yes. Yeah. It's, to me, it's supposed to be a streamlining of the mothership, the way it works in Mothership with the D100, combined with the position and effect of Blades in the Dark. But rather that being a conversation and a negotiation, it is dice allocation. So you're making the best of the situation that you find yourselves in, which again is this meta reflection on the themes of the game itself, rather than it being metagaming and trying to win, I guess.
Awesome. Well, I had a great time playing. I can't wait to see what comes out of the campaign. I'm continue to be excited about the different things that you're building out in it. We are going to do a giveaway real quick. I'm going to go over and pick somebody. You're going to get an upgrade pack, which if you've already pledged, if you've already gone to Pentagram City or ttrpg.link/CM2012, you'll be able to upgrade your pledge. Otherwise, you can get your pledge a little bit cheaper and get some extra stuff. So we are going to pick a winner for that real quick. And the winner for that is Anti-Tim. Anti-Tim, go ahead and shoot me a message. I think you've already shot me a message over on Discord or hit me up on Twitter at +1EXP. I'll get your information. We'll get that over to Adam and get you all set up for that upgrade pack. We're also going to give away a copy of Necronautilus. Keep an eye on our social media at +1EXP. I'll announce that a little bit later today after the stream is over. So if you haven't gone to retweet that, you still can. We're finishing, but you can still retweet it because it's got some good links on how to go back the game. If you haven't backed the game, I'd highly encourage you to. Adam, this is your first time on GameFound. There's a lot of new things that come with that. So anything people can do to help support games that are moving to other platforms, especially right now, it's always a good thing to do. But it's just a phenomenal game and setting, and I'm really looking forward to it. Anything else anybody else wants to talk about before we go? How is Clover?
She's good. She's good. She's staring at me.
There we go.
There she
Aww.
is.
There's
Hi,
another
Clover.
part.
Look,
Bean,
there's
look, there's
beans.
another part.
Become friends with beans.
Yay!
Become.
This is so cute. Tony, thank you so much for having us.
Yes.
Thank you guys for coming on. Anytime you want to, Will, I'm looking forward to playing some Torque soon,
Yes.
hopefully. And Spencer, hopefully we get some drifters in too. You've got a campaign coming up as part of Zemo. Yes, no?
No, I don't.
You backed off.
I
You're
did,
like,
and I backed out.
you're like, no more of this. I've got all the emails I need. I don't want anything else. I'm good to
Exactly.
go. Awesome.
You fools fell right for my trap.
Awesome. Well, cool. We like I said, if you guys need anything from us, let us know. Until next time, we're just gonna wave at the screen until I take us off air. Bye, everybody.
Bye, beans.
Bye, beans.
My power word is beans.